Time now for a look at what's making headlines in the papers. Aaron Ogunkeyi joining us back on the set. Hello, Aaron. Beginning again with one of our top stories here at Live from Paris. The Taliban expected to unveil its cabinet. What are the papers saying about that?
Well, the New York Times asks how the Taliban will govern, responding that a look at past instances of rebel rule may offer some responses to that question. The paper says that the Taliban are around the sixth or seventh rebel group to take power over an entire country in the modern era. Among the examples cited in this piece are communist Chinese rebels in 1949, revolutionaries in Cuba, and also insurgents in Uganda and Rwanda. Well, the Times says that all of these rebel groups, including the Taliban, have certain characteristics in common, and those are tightly bureaucratic authoritarianism, a focus on controlling or coercing elements of society seen as tied to the old order or as opponents, and a quest for foreign support and recognition and able to kind of overcome their past pariah status.
Yeah, and now the Taliban have vowed to build an inclusive government.
Yes, and as the Wall Street Journal points out, women and minorities are very much skeptical of that claim. This article in the Wall Street Journal today focuses on the Shiite Hazara minority, which was massacred and persecuted the last time that the Taliban were in power between 1996 and 2001. Now, to link, this to the Times piece on how rebels tend to eliminate opponents or people seen as benefiting from the old order, the Wall Street Journal says that Hazaras and women were actually among the main beneficiaries of the 2001 order in Afghanistan after the Taliban were removed. They gained senior positions in government and the army, which the piece suggests could make them a target for reprisals. But it does say that the Taliban has softened its position on minorities recently, embracing a message of national unity against foreign invaders, and even kind of appointing Hazaras to some provincial leadership positions. The insurgents, according to the Wall Street Journal, will also need to avoid too much targeting of the Shia minority because it needs economic and political support from its Shia neighbor, Iran. And over the past several weeks, they have kind of stepped up their outreach efforts towards Tehran.
And we are just several days removed from the U.S. military pullout of Afghanistan. And officials here in Europe are now calling for greater military cooperation.
That's right, for an EU army to be precise. The Guardian points out that this, of course, is not the first time that European officials have pushed for the creation of a bloc-wide army. For decades, this has been the case. But the EU's High Representative seen there for Foreign Affairs, Josep Borrell, says that the withdrawal from Afghanistan will essentially force the European Union into creating its own permanent military force. And that is because, he says, EU governments failed to convince the United States to delay its military withdrawal. And as a consequence, they were unable to get together just 5,000 troops as requested to be able to secure the airport on their own and safely evacuate their own citizens. Borrell says that really should be a wake-up call for the European Union. The piece does point out that the main obstacles to this in the past have been a lack of European investment in defense, or at least significantly less than what the United States invests, and concerns about undermining NATO. And to just conclude on that, one senior diplomat quoted in the piece says, quote, "We've been here before. Which EU leader is going to allow their nationals to be killed in the name of the European Union?" Concluding that the bloc will never be able to step into the void left by the United States or convince people that, a European force is worth dying for.
Yeah. Moving on now, Aaron, to France. A couple of papers here assessing Emmanuel Macron's government policies on fighting domestic violence.
That is because it has now officially been 2 years since the government organized a summit specifically aimed at tackling domestic violence and put several measures in place in response. It made the cover of Libération today with the headline, "Domestic Violence, Should We Sit and Wait for Him to Act?" This idea being that abusers are only really arrested, something is only done about them when they've acted on their violence or threats, citing police refusals to file reports and insufficient use of electronic bracelets to keep domestic abusers away from their victims. The paper says that the French government has thus far largely failed to protect battered women. Part of the article essentially has testimony from 7 women who say that some of whom say that they were forced to turn to social media to bring attention to their threats because the government didn't take them seriously enough. Le Figaro, for its part, describes the policies at least as a partial success. The paper says that tools like online platforms to alert to cases of domestic violence, restraining orders, and the use of emergency telephones have proliferated in recent months, and that has permitted some progress. But the paper says that the government could still improve upon more in-depth follow-through of abusers and strengthening laws that prevent them from getting their hands on weapons after they've been released from prison.
Yeah, certainly not enough work done on this issue and a lot more to be done. Aaron, to finish, ancient pottery found in China revealed a surprising discovery.
That's right. Archaeologists there unearthed ancient pottery that dated back some 9,000 years. The pieces are some of the earliest known painted pottery in the world, but where they were found, Will, is almost as interesting as the pieces themselves and also what they contained. That's because they were discovered at a burial site, and along with the pottery, there was fossilized remains of rice husks, other plants, and most importantly, yeast residues. Those ingredients are consistent with residue from beer fermentation. So archaeologists have concluded that this sheds light on what could be some of the earliest known instances of ritual beer drinking to honor the dead. The paper says that ancient beer, though, wouldn't have been like the bitter popular IPAs that have made their ways into bars everywhere, but that it was likely slightly fermented and sweet. Who knows, maybe a new recipe for beer gardens to try.
Indeed. All right. Thank you very much, Aaron. Aaron Ogunkei with a look at what's making headlines. Time now for a quick break, and then Live from Paris continues.